happening today, Joe?
It is amazing. We are getting everybody set for the Hour of Code, which is coming up in December. We have 3 amazing presenters from Apple, Google, and Microsoft. What are we learning about today?
I know, we're covering the gamut. Get your cup of tea, get your drink of choice, get your snacks, get everything ready.
Absolutely.
Get comfy on the couch because we've got Microsoft. We're going to be learning about MakeCode, MicroBit. Then we're hearing from Google, and we're getting googly with some great new G Suite products. Actually, not great new ones. They're already in use.
You are going to learn how to make the most out of spreadsheets, something which everyone needs to be able to do with it.
Spreadsheets? Really? Okay.
I know I've got my pillow at the ready, but guess what? I can't wait to be excited. Now, also, we've got Apple talking all about Swift Playground, some great Hour of Code resources. But why are we coding a bit? I don't get it.
Coding, we've heard it before. It's the jobs of the future, Joe. But what does that actually mean? What do we want our students to be getting out of coding? What can you as teachers get out of your students? What kind of skills?
Absolutely. It's all about computational thinking. It's those thinking like a computer skills, isn't it?
Yeah, well, also all the other skills that you need to have a job in the digital maker workforce of the future. Now,
Yvette, this is being recorded. If you guys want to watch it, day 1, term 1 next year, to get everyone in your school revved up, can they?
Yes, they can, Joe.
Absolutely. And what do we want them to be doing? What are they typing whilst we're showing today?
They are typing T4L,
yes.
PD. They're going to follow us on a journey and learn.
Absolutely. You got it. Put your questions in the comments section, but guess what? We're going to be kicked off here really soon. We've got to get our first presenter on.
We do, and just as an FYI, you can follow our links in the comments section of YouTube if you want to keep in touch with things as the presenters are talking about them. If you think, 100%. I just got to look that up while you're talking about it, that's where you go.
Don't worry, they're going to be in there for later. You can go back, do it in slow motion, so you can make sure, because our presenters are so amazing, they're going to go a bit fast.
I know, forget Netflix. This is what you're going to binge this afternoon.
Oh my God. As you said, coffee, tea, scones, and T4L's MakeCode webinar. It's not MakeCode.
That's right.
It's, what are we doing? Hour of Code.
Hour of Code.
Month of Code.
So
but it is going to be about... They're laughing off to the side.
I know.
Because we've got the amazing Megan Towns. Come on, Megan. Here we go. Virtual applause. Here we go, Megan. It is so great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Are you excited?
I am excited. I'm excited that you mentioned MakeCode first.
Oh, it is, exactly. Is that what you're going to be talking about?
It is. So
fabulous.
Lots of opportunity, lots of fun for all teachers and students across DOE to use MakeCode.
We can't wait.
Brilliant. We're going to let her get into it.
We're going to let you get into it. Absolutely. Take it away, Megan.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, you guys. Alrighty, so just going to share my screen here. Hey everyone, great to be here today. Always exciting to be talking about the way that technology can empower our students and teachers. So looking at MakeCode, it's really easy to get to the MakeCode website. It's just a matter of going to makecode.com. And there you'll find not just the tools for coding, but also the resources that can support teachers as well. So for us at Microsoft, the computational thinking skills and the problem solving skills that we want the innovators of tomorrow to have are really important. So we're looking to do that by introducing Minecraft Education Edition and MakeCode into the curriculum wherever possible. So sort of going to share 2 of those tools today, just 2 of many, but 2 of my favorites, which is really exciting. So for us, we really like to talk about physical computing and the idea that there's lots of components that go into that. So both hardware and software, and providing students with the opportunity to creatively express themselves, learn by doing and really getting their whole body involved. And so many things now in regards to trends are looking at the Internet of Things. So, you know, my watch is connected to the internet, my phone, probably the chip in my brain somewhere is connected to the internet, but that is where we're moving. And the skills that we want our students to have involve not just coding them, but also creating and thinking about them as well. So if we can combine the digital and the physical, we're going to get some magic. So that's where for us MakeCode comes in. So some of you may have seen some of these products. So the fabulous STEM T4L kits that are out there in school land are available with MicroBits, as well as the Lego Mindstorms, which is really exciting. So if you get your hands on those, you'll be able to use MakeCode to code those physical elements. And so when you come to the MakeCode website, you can do that from any device, whether it's a Windows device, a MacBook, a Chromebook, or even a tablet. And iOS, iPads is the word I couldn't think of. So yeah, it's really easy to get coding with MakeCode no matter which device you have. There's some other hardware that is there as well that you might not be as familiar with. But today I'm going to be focusing on the MicroBit and the Minecraft experience. So what we're going to do is just think about why MakeCode works really well. So it works everywhere, like I said, any device. It is including both the physical and the immersive and making it really inclusive. And then finally, it's this sort of pathway to real world skills. And the good thing is once you move beyond the, what's it called, block-based coding, we can get right into JavaScript, which is really cool as well. So this is the MicroBit. That's what it sort of looks like. I'm not going to read that aloud. That'd be very boring. And this is the actual MicroBit itself. So when you get the MicroBit, it comes with a little battery pack that you can plug in later once you've transferred the code using the cord. And yeah, they're nice and easy, simple to grab. You can get sort of extension kits like these. That's the Grove Inventor kit. So I think that's part of the T4L kit. Thanks, Joe. So yeah, it just allows you to add speakers and microphones and all sorts of stuff, which is really cool. So I'm going to leave that there and then flick over to I can never do micro USBs. I think I need glasses. All right, and so then the other one I'm going to look at is Minecraft. So Minecraft is available for all New South Wales DOE teachers and students now, I think. I'm allowed to say that. So any licenses can be acquired via the staff portal. So if you jump onto the staff portal and search Minecraft, you'll see all the instructions for going live with Minecraft in your classroom. So yeah, check that out. But for now, enough of me chatting in death by PowerPoint. We're going to jump in and play around with those two particular bits of MakeCode. So let me switch over to the browser. All right, so there's our MakeCode website. The 7 different things that you can code with MakeCode are all there. And if we scroll down the bottom, you'll find some fabulous resources as well, which I'll talk about when I wrap things up. But for now, it is the MicroBit MakeCode experience I want to jump into. And this is what it looks like. So it's fairly easy to sort of operate. There's some great built-in tutorials there as well, which is really cool. I'm actually going to use one of those, start simple. But then after that, there's some more complex sort of projects that you can get your kids into. And then you can also have students start to code just from the very beginning with a blank canvas, creating a new project. So for me, I'm going to make the smiley buttons first. So I'm going to click on smiley buttons and start that tutorial. Now, the thing I like about coding the MicroBit is that you don't need to have 30 microbits physically necessarily in your classroom. Because of the emulator on the left-hand side, kids can be coding and testing while testing with that emulator that's on screen. So we'll just wait for that to load up. Alrighty. And we'll just click on OK. Instructions are always really important. I find when I run this session with students, it's okay. They tend to read the instructions, but teachers are not always the best at doing that. So make sure you read those instructions before clicking on next to get that next instruction. So basically, first up, we're going to drag a bit of code onto the main canvas. So we need to look for that on button A pressed. So that means I just have to click on the pink option in the contents, and I can drag that block over. Just place it somewhere that's free on the screen. So I've got my next instruction, which is great, and we can click on next. So then it's about the LEDs. So the MicroBit has 25 LEDs on the actual bit. And so I just click on basic and I can drag that show LEDs button over as well. And so then it's about getting that smiley face onto the LEDs. So I just need to draw some eyes. Okay, so these are my very exciting eyes. And then my smiley face down the bottom. So that's a nice little space. I can test it over on the left-hand side once that emulator sort of loads up. So if I click A, I'm going to get that smiley face. So yeah, that's where it's really nice to be able to test and use with students, even if they don't actually have the MicroBit. There's a teacher up in Brisbane who has one MicroBit in his classroom, and he does amazing things with that with his 32 students, I think he has this year. All right, so next little bit of code. Now we're looking for that button B pressed. So again, we're just going to drag that pink bit of code over. The tutorials are a lot easier. They take away all of the blocks and give you just the blocks you need for the tutorial. So it's a great way to get started. So now I notice that my original bit of code's actually grayed out. And it's because I've got that duplicate, so both of them being button A. But my instruction is to actually make it button B. So now it's fine, my button A block returns. So now if I click on basic, again I want to drag the LEDs over. And this time I'm going to make a smiley, not a smiley face, what's the opposite? A frowny face. So if I tap those eyes, and then this time it'll be a bit sad. So yeah, then we can click on next. And there's a bit of a secret mode. There's multiple points of input for the MicroBit as it comes standard. So you've got the A button, the B button, and you can also tap A and B at the same time. So again, we look for that input button and we're going to drag on button A over, and this time drop it down and choose A and B instead. And yet again, get my little show LEDs, drag it over. And for this one, I might go, what's somewhere in between a smile and a frown? If anyone's seen 10 Things I Hate About You, it's called whelmed, not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just whelmed. And so for that one, we drag just the line across for my face for that one. And so let's click on next. Some 10 Things I Hate About You fans in the room. And so now before I actually download it to the device, I'll make sure I test it. So I want to know that when I click A, I get a smiley face. When I get B, I get a sad face. And when I get AB, I get a whelmed face. So that looks right. It's pretty cool. And now I need to transfer the code to the MicroBit itself. So I get my trusty MicroBit here. Actually comes with a much smaller code, but for demonstration purposes today, this works quite well. So we plug that in. Got my little orange light happening on the back, which tells me it's plugged in and powering. And then sort of works like a external USB. It's now a drive on my computer. So when I download it, no matter which browser you're using, you'll get the usual, file save as or whatever it might be. There it is. So I'll actually click save as, and then we'll go, it'll open up the usual Windows box to save it somewhere. So then I'll just click on this PC, and we need to scroll down and not find the MicroBit. That's very helpful. Let's just quickly save it to the desktop, and then we'll transfer it over. All right. And save. All right, so now I'll just quickly open up that File Explorer and transfer it over. Alrighty. So then, let's go down here. We'll see if it's there. If not, I have an assistant today, which is fantastic. Let's take that one off. And then it loads up like your USBs should. And if it doesn't, that's alright. Got a backup plan. The emulator's on screen. You need to come with me everywhere. We did test this, which is always good. How good's testing? Hey! Oh, there we go. Alrighty, so there's my MicroBit. Oh, sweating. And into the desktop. And I saved that. Can anyone remember what I saved it as? I was stressing because it wasn't going over. You know what? We'll do it straight from the screen again. Even better. Alright, so click download, and this is how it happens naturally. First time. Pretend the last 25 seconds didn't happen. Save as. MicroBit smiley buttons is what it's called. Alrighty, so there's my MicroBit, happily there and where it needs to be. And then I just click save and save it over. And so what I'll see happen on my little MicroBit is that orange button is now flashing, indicating that it's saving to the MicroBit. And when it goes solid, the code has transferred. So now if I wanted to go mobile, I could disconnect that, connect it to the little battery pack that comes with the MicroBit, and I could move around and put it in different places. One of the activities I've done with very small kids before actually is to create MicroBit monsters, and they make different faces like what I just did with the smiley faces, and then they build the craft all around it, which is lots of fun, but it needs to be mobile to do that. But without being mobile, you can still stay connected, and if I click on my little A button, I'll see the smiley face, and then if I click on the B button, there's the frowny face. Don't know why I'm actually doing it myself. And then if we click them both at the same time, I'm whelmed. I can't do that today. So yeah, that's the MicroBit. It's that easy. It's a really simple activity to get started making the smiley buttons and then building something around it and using the MicroBit as the face of whatever you might build. So great activity to get started with the small kids, but also lots of fun with the older kids too, as they potentially progress from block-based coding to JavaScript coding. And I believe that the MakeCode team are looking to introduce more languages in the future as well, which is really exciting. Okay, so on to most people's favorite game, the fabulous Minecraft. Okay, so the Minecraft code connection has improved quite significantly in the last year or so. It used to be a separate file installation. That was a bit fiddly. Now it's all inclusive. So I'm quickly going to jump into a new world, and I'm going to make it chicken rain. I might also make it rain pigs, depending on time. So let's just go coding in Minecraft as a name. Going creative, because it's just easier for my brain. And we jump into this world. And so basically now, if you want to open up Code Connection in Minecraft, all you need to do while you're inside a world is click the C button on your keyboard. If you're using an iPad, there's a little agent icon for you to bring up. So let's make sure I'm not underneath any trees, as I've been caught out with that before. And now I'll just quickly click C. You can actually code with either MakeCode or Tinker. It's your choice. So I'll click on MakeCode. And that will take me into the MakeCode interface. And so now I've got the ability, just like I was doing with the MicroBit, to drag bits of code over onto the main canvas. And I can also tap into tutorials. So my favorite tutorial is the chicken rain one. And so yeah, basically you set the code up. You can either code the game itself, or you can code what's called an agent, which is a little duck looking thing. That's him or her on the right hand side there. So chicken rain, my favorite one. I will click on that right now, and we'll start that tutorial. Oh, that little dude's new. He didn't pop up last time I was playing with Code Builder. It's so cute. Keeps me entertained while I wait. While I'm connected to my phone Wi-Fi, I've just realized halfway through this session, which is very smart of me. All right. So it's a nice, easy bit of code. And the good thing is with all of the tutorials, after you've built the basics, it prompts you to sort of advance yourself a little bit more as well. So this one for our instructions, we're coming in, I'm just going to dance and entertain. Maybe a few more poppers, maybe. That'd be great. No, I'm joking. So, come on, there we go. Lots of chicken. Now we can get coding. I still want a popper. So this time we're going to change the command from run to chicken. So when I type the word run into the game, something will happen. But for this one, I want the command to actually be chicken. So I'll pop that in there. Also just increase my battery. Oh, yes, there we go. Sorry, just need to increase the battery, which is always a good idea with Minecraft. You sometimes do just need a bit more juice. All right, so chicken, there we go. Excellent. Next instruction. We want, when we type the word chicken, for something to happen. So we want it to spawn. If you've ever spoken to a Minecrafter, you've probably heard the word spawn 7,000 times and wondered what it means. It means for something to appear. And so we want the chicken to appear relative to the position of the player. So at the moment it's 0, 0, 0. But if we look at the next instruction, the zeros represent the coordinates, so the X, Y, Z coordinates. So if I actually change that second 0 to a 10, it means that, ooh, excellent, I just deleted it. It means that the chicken is going to spawn 10 blocks above wherever I'm standing. So let's pop that in there. Next instruction is to just test it. So all I need to do is click play. And like what I did with the MicroBit, where I saved it to the MicroBit, clicking play plugs the code into the game. And so once the code's in the game, I can run those commands. So let's, well, there's my little agent. Hello, agent. So let's click on T to bring up the chat and commands. And my command is chicken. So as soon as I hit enter, that command will take place. So there's my one little chicken. But if we click on C and go back in, it challenges us to learn about looping. Okay, so all this language of coding is being introduced to students. You know, if they can play Minecraft, they will start coding as well. So we're introducing that language quite early, which is great. All right, so now we can make it chicken rain 100 times. We'll click play again, put the code in. And then this time, it's always fun. I like doing this. It's so much fun. I don't know why. Click chicken again, and we stand back, and it's literally raining chickens. And so my other fun, oh, hello. My other fun activity to do with that is to get kids to make all sorts of different animals fall from the sky and time how long it takes each one to fall. Because in Minecraft, sometimes we obey the laws of gravity. And so certain things take longer to fall or they're shorter. So yeah, it's always fun to see what else we can make fall from the sky. So let's click on C. And this time, let's spawn a pig. Because we always wanted to know what it looked like to make pigs fly. So change that to pig, just because I can. And if you want to make pigs fly 10 blocks from the top of the sky, unfortunately, they'll land on top of one another, and some of them will not quite survive. That's why they're all going quite red. So yeah, the density of the animal determines on whether they survive that 10 block fall to the ground. So yeah, there's lots of you know, cross-curricular experiences that can happen when you're playing with the code connection in Minecraft and connecting it to the other parts of the curriculum that you're looking at, like mathematics, which is a perfect tie-in for Minecraft and the code builder. So they are my two sort of favorite demos. Nice and easy, can get started tomorrow with using the MicroBit code emulator if you don't actually have the MicroBit itself. And Minecraft, like I said, is available for all users, all staff and students now in the Department of Education, which is really exciting. So just wanted to wrap up with a few resources. So really quickly, MakeCode is available on as Windows apps. So particularly if you're in schools where the internet can drop out or students are going home with their devices, the MakeCode app will work offline. You don't need to be online for that. There's a wealth of resources out there for you to train yourself up on using MakeCode in the classroom. So if you go to education.microsoft.com, which is our educator community, and search for MakeCode, there's about 7 or 8 different courses in there that will guide you through introducing these concepts into your classroom. We've got 2 really great OneNote resources. So if you're looking for a 14-week course on introducing computer science into the curriculum with MicroBit or Minecraft, they're available free for you to download, so you can check those out. We're sharing all these links later as well, which is awesome. Some example projects are also available in the resources from the MakeCode website, so lots of physical things for kids to make and connect their microbits to. And to finish things off, I like this quote. You can access it from a report that the link's also on the screen for. You know, we are looking to develop you know, not everyone needs to be a computer scientist. We're not teaching and encouraging computational thinking because everyone must learn it. we're encouraging it because it's going to be such an essential part of our futures, no matter whether it's in our personal lives or in our careers. So thought I'd leave on that little note. And thank you all for having me. As always, I love hanging out in this space. Bringing over.
We'll get you in the middle.
Yes, let's do that. Did I get a popper?
Yeah, yes, we had one for you early, but we're going to get onto that.
There we go.
Okay, celebrate the end of that before we get on to
I'm so excited.
onto our questions. Now we've had
So good.
a couple of questions come through.
Yes.
And because this is the hot topic and everyone's talking about rain, raining pigs, raining animals, can you create real rain in Minecraft?
You can actually do that with a simple command. So
Okay.
actually some of the most kids will know about commands in Minecraft, and what they probably don't realize is that is also coding. So yes, anytime you want.
So
/
there are
set weather rain.
tangible links to problem solving in communities and other real life problems that we know are existing out there at the moment. So that was the first question. We also had another question from very excited viewers online. It's all about actually suggesting some products or a resource for an actual stage 5 classroom and where you could start with that.
Absolutely. So year 5, I think it was, Yvette. So year 5 classroom.
Year 5.
What could they do? They're a bit scared about getting started, but what would you recommend? Which resource should they go to first?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a fabulous MicroBit activity. It's actually one of the tutorials for creating a game of paper, scissors, rock. You do need 2 microbits.
Yeah.
Because they use the shake to play the paper, scissors, rock. Yeah, it's really easy.
That's very cool.
I love that one.
And most year 5
Absolutely.
kids are all over the paper, scissors, rock concept.
Yeah.
This is
And
amazing.
Spock.
Excellent.
They could add Spock if they really wanted to.
I love
We
it.
need to introduce that as a decision-making process within the T4L
Oh,
environment.
we did that
So it feels like
recently
a good
somewhere. I
idea.
can't remember where, but it was lots of fun.
That's right.
Now, there are a couple of things. Now, one of them was that, we do need to tell people about the amazing new licenses that are available.
Yep.
So if they do go to, exactly right, bit.ly/MEE Minecraft Education Edition D_O big E, then you can get all those licenses, but we'll make sure that goes into the comments section. That is for sure. So we're all set and all sorted for that. And Yvette, I love your point. This Minecraft, and Megan, you know this, it can solve real problems. We can get kids prototyping, designing, all those kind of things. And now with code.
Absolutely. How many kids made prototypes during the Game Maker Challenge? And
Oh,
they were all environmental solutions. And it was amazing to see kids of all ages using Minecraft as a prototyping tool.
And there's so many exciting competitions coming up in 2020. Now's the time, isn't it?
So many.
Yes, exactly. Keep your
Statewide.
eyes peeled, your ears open for all these awesome opportunities, hey?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Megan. It's been
Thanks for
great.
having me.
Superstar.
Things we've learned.
Absolutely.
So much happening.
Thank you so much. Take a bow.
Okay, well
off
done.
the stage. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay.
We'll see Megan again
Brilliant.
soon. That is
Okay.
for sure.
Fantastic.
If people want to stay connected with all things T4L, Yvette, where should they be going?
So first of all, check the links out in the comments because we
Yeah.
want to take you to the home of T4L, to our website. We're also going to take you and suggest you visit the STEM.T4L Learning Library, another fantastic resource.
All those hour of code events.
Yeah, there's plenty of events that STEM.T4L want to take you on that journey as well. So we really recommend you check out those links because let's face it, we're heading out early with this month of code. It's actually about the hour of code. This is week 7. Hour of code actually happens worldwide in 2 weeks' time. So we're actually ahead of the pack here, Joe. It doesn't happen often, but it's happening today, guys.
We're preparing you. STEM.T4L is going to be preparing you even more next week.
right.
And then it's the hour of code.
That's
More awesomeness happening then. So
And don't forget that today is just a precursor to our live face-to-face events happening later this week.
That's
so
it.
tomorrow, Megan, she earns her money.
Oh
I
my
tell you what, we've got her
gosh,
out at
yes.
McCallum's Hill Public School
Don't
on the
miss
Microsoft
it.
bus, Surface bus.
Can I sign up still?
I think I'm getting the go-ahead. Yeah,
Yes?
you're good to go. Yes,
Okay,
you
I
can still sign up for that.
Fantastic. All
And
right.
on Wednesday, we're over to the newly refurbished Bondi Junction Apple Store.
I've
it's
heard it's got a
very
huge
cool.
screen. A really
Big
huge
screen.
hyper-definition
I know, if only
screen.
people could see the big screens in here
I
too. There's
know,
so many happening.
exactly. And
That'll
then
be great. That's another great face-to-face event after
Absolutely.
school. And then Thursday, we're getting googly.
That's it. Google HQ. You can't miss this one. I think there's even going to be a Google engineer that is going to drop in
gosh.
to inspire everyone as to why they need to code and think
Do
computationally.
Google engineers wear overalls and cap No, sorry, that was a daggy joke. Forget that. So
I think
one
that's
dad joke
what
in
is
the
it?
afternoon.
Mario. They wear the overalls.
Definitely, well, not Donkey Kong, that's for sure. Okay.
So where do they go? They go to t4l.schools.nsw.gov.au. That is the home of T4L events and everything. Make sure you do it today.
Okay.
So what we're going to do now is, you know what it's time for?
It's time for an ad break, Joe.
It's time for an ad break. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Magic's going to happen behind our ad break.
It's happening in the background.
Okay.
We're going to take you to a wonderful world called magazine.t4l.
Fantastic.
Have a look at the evolution of magazine.t4l. We are now on actually issue 4. I should actually be working on issue 4 as we speak.
My gosh.
Which actually is going to focus all on coding. Last month, we actually had a wonderful, wonderful look at the amazing MicroBit, which Megan's just taken you through, which is very cool. And this product is great if you're beginning your tech journey or if you're sort of getting started with various bits of tech.
It is my favourite little tool, you know, Yvette, the MicroBit. It is such a cool tool. But you know what else? There's more. There was a road test on MoCows. What's a MoCow?
Okay, a MoCow, get ready. Mobile computer on wheels. I nearly said cow on wheels, but that would be a whole different beast in itself. We're trialling MLDs, mobile learning displays. We've done a road test on 3D printers. Everything you wanted to know about 3D printers, but were afraid to ask, Joe.
Absolutely. And there's always a little call out about, you know, the STEM.T4L team as well, plus amazing resource on the back page that really get you started.
I know.
I love it.
There's a very cool feature coming with next week's issue, but you need to subscribe so it gets delivered directly to your inbox. So this is a call to action.
Subscribe on issue. That's what you need to do.
Right.
Make sure it comes straight in.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, it's fantastic because guess what? I've lost our clicker.
Oh,
so
no.
we're going to go totally off this one and we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun.
Are we doing another?
We're on live
We're
and here we go.
Brilliant.
You can tell we're doing this because we've got the amazing, the outstanding, the unbelievable person coming up next. But before we do that, I want to ask you a question, Yvette. We're doing all this coding, you see, but I don't know where it connects to the curriculum. Help me out.
You're the curriculum guru. You know the links because they're actually... there's huge connections here, and you know your stuff. The thing that I'm actually really interested in is this digital workforce of the future. Because there's not only the skills that the students are going to need to know, the coding, etc., and the collaborative skills that you'll need around it to project manage, create, problem solve, etc.
You got it.
That's where we're headed. But actually, this is where teachers need to know that there are strong embedded links to our new curriculum. There
are. I mean, everyone in the future is going to need to be able to use these digital tools. So the curriculum has responded. In Science and Tech K to 6 and Tech Mandatory 7 and 8, there are clear links to coding, computational thinking. You need to get on board with this, and I know you guys out there, you're already doing it, but you need to convince everyone else out there to jump on board this train as well. So take a look at the Foundation for Young Australians report to convince everybody else that there is a real need to get on board. And 100%, what we're going to do now, I think we're going to introduce our next guest.
I think we should.
Because he's going to take computational thinking to a whole new level. We've done Minecraft, we've done Make Code, and now we're doing spreadsheets.
What?
Woohoo!
Spreadsheets?
Here we go, Chris. Come on, let's go. Come in, take a seat.
How dare you malign my spreadsheet?
I know.
We've been so excited about this, I have to be honest with you. Absolutely. Is that what we're going to look at today, Chris? What are we covering?
Yeah, we're going to look at sheets because, you know, like all this coding stuff is super important and there's so many cool things kids can do with coding. But you know what? Most people's interaction with coding ideas in the real world probably is going to be in a spreadsheet. Oh. And the thing is, when I talk to a lot of adults and kids, let's face it, most people aren't very good with spreadsheets.
No, wow, that's true.
So I thought I'd show you some spreadsheet foo and some coding principles.
Spreadsheet foo.
Oh my
we can use this with the admin staff tomorrow.
Oh my
so you can go and approach the Sam and go, you know, I think I might know how to power up your spreadsheet. That'd be kind of a cool thing to say.
Hashtag mad skills, people. Okay.
All right, Chris, we're going to leave you with it.
All right, thank
you.
Excellent, fantastic. Thanks, everyone. So can we cut to my slides, if you don't mind, guys? Thank you. Fantastic. So I've called this Coding with Sheets, and there is a short link there, bit.ly/coding sheets. So if you want to follow along at home and download your own copy of the slides, and the slides have links to everything else, you can play along. Otherwise, feel free to just watch. So that's me. I work at Google. I'm the program manager for G Suite adoption. My contact details are there. Feel free to get in touch. So we do a whole bunch of computational stuff at Google. As you can imagine, we have tons of engineers. We have about 2,000 people working here in Sydney. We build maps, we build Chromebooks, we build Chrome OS rather, we build Chrome. We have a whole bunch of teams working here in Sydney building this stuff. So we get where the importance of coding and computational thinking and programming and all that stuff, we get where that's about, what that's about. We run a program called CS First. You can get it there at csfirst.withgoogle.com. That's not what I'm going to talk about today, but I want you to be aware that it exists. It actually uses Scratch as a platform, and it's great. Schools can use it as like an extension program or an after-school program or an extracurricular program, or they can use it in the classroom if they want, but it teaches kids to code using Scratch. What I want to talk to you about today is G Suite for Education, and specifically that little green icon at the top there, which is Google Sheets. And I know what you're thinking, like spreadsheets, oh, boring, right? Spreadsheets are sexy, man. I've got to tell you, spreadsheets are not boring. Once you know what you're doing with Sheets, and I'm using Google Sheets, but the principles apply to any spreadsheet product you really want to use. My friend Jay Atwood once said, the spreadsheet formulas are the entry point to computer programming. And I really agree with that statement. Most people's first interaction with some sort of code often is trying to figure out a formula in a spreadsheet, how to add two numbers together, how to make things happen inside a spreadsheet. That's programming, that's coding, believe it or not. I want to prove it to you. I'm not going to talk about these today, but the links are in the notes here in case you want to check them out. Google App Script, which is actually the engine behind what happens inside all of the G Suite applications. It's a JavaScript programming language that you can dig into. And I'll try and give you a little example of that later. There's a great little tool called Flippity.net. It's an extension for Google Sheets, which builds games and flashcards and all sorts of things using nothing but a Google Sheet. And this great app called Glide, which is a service you can go to, you can actually build an app for your phone in a Google Sheet and export it out to your phone. So there's lots and lots of things that spreadsheets form the foundation of. But if you don't have the foundation, you're going to struggle doing most of it. So I've pulled out some formulas and things here that I think are kind of foundational to the idea of coding. And there are tons, and I haven't actually included all of them. These are just some of the ones that I think are probably the more important ones. Over on the left-hand side, you've got things called text functions. Len, left, right, mid, proper, lower, upper, split, concatenate. When I first learned to program a long time ago, I learned originally in a language called BASIC. That'll show my age, right? But these were commands from the BASIC programming language, and they're commands that exist still today in things like JavaScript and Python and other languages as well. These are actual programming commands. If you look at the logic functions in the middle, you've got things like a VLOOKUP, if, COUNTIF, dated. Now, some people read that as dated if. It's date diff. I'll show you what that means in a sec. Sorting and querying and dealing with errors and generating random numbers. So these are all programming constructs, and they exist inside Sheets. Over on the right hand side, there's some things that are not really formulas as such, but they're tools built into Sheets that are things like validating data, inserting images, removing duplicates, removing white space, pivot tables and macros. They're all programming constructs. And I want to give you a hot tip. Down in the bottom corner, you'll see that little yellow box there. If you're ever looking at a spreadsheet and you're just seeing a whole bunch of numbers, some of those numbers will be things that people have typed in, and some of those things will be numbers that have been calculated. And you can reveal the formulas behind the calculated numbers by pressing Control and tilde. Tilde is that little squiggly thing. It's usually just below your escape key. So if you go Control tilde, you'll expose the formulas. Super helpful. All right. There are, in fact, hundreds and hundreds of formulas inside Google Sheets. You might think it can do sum, average, count, max, min, right? The big four. As it turns out, there are actually hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of formulas in there, and they do all sorts of things. I've put a short link there, bit.ly/all-the-functions, and so you can go and there's a direct link to the Google support page for Sheets functions, and you can actually search through there and check them out. It's a fascinating list of extensions once you dig into them. All right, I have created a sample sheet. I'm just going to go into a live demo in just a sec. If you're following along at home, there's a link there. You can click and make a copy of the sample sheet. I just want to show you too, when you click that link, it will actually bring you to a page that says, do you want to make a copy? So every time you click one of these links I've set up for you, it'll make a brand new copy, so you don't have to worry about messing anything up. It's your copy to play with. You can destroy it and get another one. It's all good. All right, let's exit out of here. And let's actually go into our sample sheets. All right, can you guys see that screen okay? Fantastic. All right, this is a typical sort of thing that a teacher might have to deal with. So I've got some numbers here and some details about students, but I've only got some of them and I need to generate some of the others. So over on the left, so you see I've got a student number, I've got a name, length. I actually want to calculate how long each student name is, because some students, like that Ed Lee, has got a very short name, and Devin Schwarzkopf's got a very long name. I might want to just count them. Well, I could count the letters manually, but that's a bit cumbersome, so I won't do that. Then I've got, like, I might want to split the words. So Faye and Shelton, for example, the first name there, like at the moment it's one thing, but I might want to split it into two things. So I need to do that. I've got a date of birth from this student, but I might want to know their actual age. So how can I calculate their age from their date of birth? So we'll look at that as well, and then we'll generate a username and we'll generate an email. So I'll show you how this works. So first things first. So I need to know the length of the student's name. So there's a formula. It is LEN, short for length. And it always start a formula with an equal sign. As soon as you type that equal sign, the spreadsheet immediately knows that you're about to calculate something. So the formula in this case is len, and the thing we want to calculate the length of is this thing here. Now, this word Faye Shelton is in column B, row number 2, so it's in B2. And if you've done programming, you've probably heard the word variables before. So if you think about each one of these cells as a variable, and you're pointing that function to that variable, right? So I'm going to say, what is the length of B2? And I wrap it in the brackets. When I press enter, it tells me the answer is 12, okay? Now here's another thing about spreadsheets that might blow your mind. This little button in the corner here, the tiny little blue box in the corner, you probably know that you can grab that and drag that down the page to fill that down. But did you know you can simply go onto it and double click it and it will automatically do that for you as well? So that's a big time saver when you do that. Right, I've got the student's name here, Faye Shelton. I'd like it as Faye as first name, Shelton as the last name. Well, I know there are people out there who have sat at a sheet just like this and manually cut and paste all the names apart. Don't ever do that again, because we're going to use a command that says split. Oops, if I can type it correctly. Split. And what we're going to split is the thing in B2, the student's name. And what are we going to split it as? So there's got to be something in the middle that we're going to say, when you hit one of these, you're going to split it. Well, it happens to be a space. How do you recognize a space? Well, you wrap it in quote marks, just like in programming. So we're going to say split B2 when you hit a space. Do that, boom, and you can see now it's split that. Let's use that same trick again, and we'll double click on the little corner box there, double click that, boom, there's all the students' names, done. That saved a lot of time, right? Let's go over to this one. I love this one. We're calculating the age of the student. How do you work out the age of something? Well, it's whenever it came into existence minus today, right? We're subtracting from today to whenever it started. So let's do that. So we're going to say equals, the formula you want to use here is a thing called date diff. In other words, the difference between dates. So the date diff, we're going to go to the start date. And the start date over here is when the student was born. So it's this thing here in F2. And then we want to measure to today. Well, there happens to be a formula in Sheets to calculate the date today. And guess what? It's the word today, right? And today, and you put 2 brackets on the other side of it like that, and that calculates today's date. And then at the end of that, well, what do we want to calculate it in? Well, we want it in years, right? So we're going to put in quote marks, a Y, and close it off. So look at that formula. It says, look at the date difference between the date the student was born and today, and express it in years. Can you see how this has very programmy kind of constructs in it? Let's press enter on that. That student's 10 years old. If we double click that thing again and fill that down, there's all the ages for the students again, right? I think we've supercharged some of this, right? Let's look at the username. Now, when I worked in a school, everyone has different systems, first name, dot, last name, whatever you want it to be. The system we had in my school, and I'm going to show you here, we used the first initial of the student's name, the next 3 initials of their last name, and their student number, and we joined it all together. That was their username. So let's see if we can make that happen here. What I want to do is calculate, so the equal sign. We're going to look at the leftmost letter of their first name. Okay, where's their first name? Well, first of all, we need to go left. The leftmost letter of their first name. How many characters do we want? 1. All right, great. And then we're going to join it. Now, in computing terminology, to join 2 things together is the word concatenate. Fancy word. But the symbol for that is the ampersand or the and symbol, right? So we'll add one of those in, ampersand. Then we're going to take the first 3 letters of their last name. So we'll say equals left, and we'll calculate their last name, comma, 3. And now we're taking the 3 first letters on the left-hand side of their last name. And then let's press, then we want to add their student number. We've got that over in the first column. So let's say ampersand, and we'll add the student number in, and let's go boom, and we get an error. Why did we get an error? We got an error because I can't type properly. Because I put an equal sign in that I didn't want. Okay, there you go. So there you go. So there is the student name. Now, it's got a capital letter in the first 2 letters. I don't really want that. That's a bit of a mess. It's not nice. So I'm going to use another command here called lower, which of course stands for lowercase. And so we wrap that around there like that. So we're saying, look at the lowercase version of the leftmost letter of the first name, 1 character, add to it the leftmost 3 characters of their last name, and add to it their student number. Boom, there it is. Let's fill that down. Okay, and now we've got that. Now, I know this is not very exciting, right? I know this is kind of numbers and things, and some of you are glazing over because it's a spreadsheet. How much time is this going to save you if you know how to do this? Last thing I'm going to do here is just add an email address for these people. So I'm going to say equals, how do we generate an email address? Well, it's their username with the domain bit at the end. So we'll say use their username, ampersand, we'll connect onto that, we'll concatenate onto that, whatever the domain is. Let's say it's at education.nsw.gov.au, right? And so we'll do that, and we'll say that, and there's their email address automatically generated. Boom, done. So we started off with a very few pieces of data. We calculated all of the others. Remember my tip about control tilde? If I go control tilde on this, you'll see, oops, sorry, don't do that. Control tilde, you'll see that's how the sheet looks when you actually look at all the formulas behind the scenes that are actually doing the work. All right. Does that make sense, people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. This next one, this would have to be the most misunderstood command and probably one of the most powerful ones, and that's VLOOKUP. When you have a list of stuff, how do you look up something automatically out of it? So I'll give you an example here. I've got a list of students' names here over on the left-hand side, the column B. And next to it, I've got their student number. If I only had their student number, how would I look up their name? And that's where VLOOKUP comes in. So I'm going to pop up here. So the idea is I'm going to type a student number into this cell, this first one where it says 5768. And I'm going to look up the corresponding name that matches that. So here's how this works. Equals VLOOKUP. And then we're going to say, what are we going to search for? Well, the thing we're going to search for is the thing over here in G2, so this number. We're going to look for that. Where are we going to look for it? Well, we're going to look for it in this range here, all of these things over here. So I'll highlight all of that. If we find it, what are we going to return? Well, we're going to return the thing in the second column, which is number 2. And then, don't ask me to explain this, I'll just put the word false in there. It's because false just makes sure it only searches for the things we want. Just trust me on that one. Too hard to explain right now. Okay, so think about what that says. Look up that number from that range of things, and if you find a match, show me the thing in the second column. We do that, and boom, there's Kyle Welsh. So if I go in here and type a different number in, so let's type in, say, 1354, boom, it finds Faye Shelton, right? That's how a VLOOKUP works. Now I'm going to take this one little step further here. I don't want to have to type in those numbers all the time. The numbers are already here over in the first column. So I'm going to use a thing called data validation. It's a really neat spreadsheet tool that's built into the spreadsheet. And what it does is it checks that something inside a cell matches a certain range of criteria. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to say data validation. Now what I want to do is I want to show a list from a range. A range is a collection of cells. So I'm going to list from a range, and the range I want is all the numbers. When I do that and say save, what happens is that cell now becomes a drop-down list of all the numbers. So I can simply go in there, pick someone's name, there's that student, pick someone there, there's that student, and so now I've got a really automated, fast, easy way of finding something. Now I've only got 20 students in this list here. I could have 1,000 students in this list here, and it would be the fastest possible way to find something from that list. So that's VLOOKUP, really, really powerful. Here's a fun little one to show you how an if statement works. And you know how if works, we say if something is true, then something else happens. So I've got some two dice here. These little dice, I actually drew them in Google Drawings. They're just drawings, like a white square with some dots in them. And you'll see what happens here if I refresh this spreadsheet, and you can recalculate a spreadsheet by Control R, it will regenerate. So it's like rolling a dice every time. Now, a dice program is one of the fundamental things when you start writing computer programs for the first time. A dice program is one of the obvious things you start with. So this is a way of doing that. Let's look at the formula behind that. If you look up in here, it says if B1, which is this number here, if it's a 5, or if it's a 1, go into this cell here and pick up F3 and use that one. If it's a 2, go into this cell here and use that one. If it's a 3, go into that cell there and use that one, and so on. And so as this generates a number, well, how does it generate a number? Let's look at that formula. Using a formula called rand between. Rand between 1 and 6, what do you think that means? Pick a random number between 1 and 6. Every time I recalculate, it picks a random number between 1 and 6. Then the one below it says, look at that number, and if you find that number, if it's a 1, do this. If it's a 2, do that. If it's a 3, do that. Okay? That's what an if statement does. You've got all these things. I think, given the... No, we'll do this one. We'll do this one. So, little short sheet here. This is using a thing called a query. This list is actually being pulled from this list, right? And what it says is, query, this is SQL programming language. That's structured query language that we're pulling here. Use the query command to look at the text sheet and select the columns E, D, H, G, and A where G equals 12. So if the student is 12, because that's the column with the ages, it's going to only show the 12-year-olds. What if we change that to 10? Now it's going to show me the 10-year-olds. What if we go and change that again and we change that to, I don't know, 7-year-olds? Boom. So you can see it's a live formula and it's pulling data from one sheet into another sheet. Super useful. Uses a really good programming construct. This last bit here I want to show you is not really coding per se, but it kind of reveals how the coding stuff works. I've got two tables here, right? They're both structured identically. I've got this one on this side from columns A to E. I got this one on this side from columns G to K. They are different data, but same format. Well, just like some other spreadsheets, Google Sheets has macros. I'll quickly show you how they work. So I'm going to go up here, put my cursor there in the top column there, and I go Tools, Macros, and Record a Macro. And for this example, I want to use relative references. You'll see why in a sec. Now, what it's doing, my computer is now just listening to whatever I do. Whatever I do, it'll record it. So I'm going to take this, and first of all, I'm going to select all those cells, and I'm going to apply. Let's make it pretty. Let's go down here and do some alternating colors. Let's make it look like that. That looks good. Let's say done. Get rid of that. Let's select the top row of columns there. Let's make that bold. Let's grab this column here and make that centered. So I'm just making some changes to the way this looks. I might want to maybe go down here and bold the last names. Whatever you want to do. I've made a bunch of changes to that. And so I say save. I give it a name. We'll call that fix sheet. And say save. And that is now recording that macro. Now here's the thing. I want to make those exact same changes to the other table. Rather than go through and select them all and change the color and change the bold and do all that sort of stuff, all I have to do now is go back to the tools and replay that macro. Now the first time you ask it to do it, it will ask for permission. Where's the permission gone? Permission's disappeared. Hang on a sec. Tools, macros, fix sheet, and why is it not running? Oh, authorization required, that's what I want. So it's just asking permission to do it. The very first time you do it, it asks for permission. After you've done it once, it won't ask you again. I'll say allow. Now that I've allowed that, watch what happens to that table on the right-hand side. Yeah, okay, got it. Oh, it's already done that. You'll see it now looks identically. It's taken all of the stuff I did the first one and has replayed it to all of the stuff I did on the second one. That's about all I got time to do in that thing. Just to finish off, where are we here? I'll go back to my slides. There's a couple of little fun examples in here. You can go and play with them. This is a translation wall. This uses the Google Translate function to actually look up languages and compare language pairs. And you can see here, you can look up any word in any language and get a table of it. Language teachers, check this out. This is a lot of fun. Random poetry fun. This is a spreadsheet that's using a random number generator to look through those words there in that table, and it will generate random sentences. So instead of the dog sat on the mat, it's like adorable eagles lay on the door, because it's randomly generating words from that table. And every time I press, oh, sorry, I'm not running that. I have an example here. There it is there. Every time I press the refresh button, you can see it generates randomly a new sentence. So English teachers, check that out. What if you get your kids writing some random poetry? And finally, the last one here is this one here. Check this one out. This uses all sorts of interesting formulas. I've listed them on the side there. I've put all of the formulas on the page so you can check them out. It is true programming. I don't care what anyone tells you. All the examples, if you want to work through this at your own pace, all the example solutions, it's like the answers in the back of the book. Like, they're all there. If you want to learn more about spreadsheets and how to use them, check out the Teacher Center, teachercenter.withgoogle.com. There's a training page there. You can learn how to use all of these tools. We've got some fundamentals and advanced training, and you can actually just go do a whole sheet thing. All right, done.
Oh my God.
Further reading, if you want to know more.
Random poetry, concatenation. Chris, what are you doing to us? That was fantastic. I was gripped. I mean, no, thank you. That was utterly fantastic. Some of that random poetry is better than some random poetry I've generated. So English teachers will be going to that one quick smart.
Good.
But
Excellent.
no, thank you so much for that presentation. I think it's abundantly clear that the ability to look at data, understand it, manage it, is something that our students really need to have for the future.
Yeah,
so
totally agree.
any tools that help teachers as well move into time-saving mode is also fantastic. So we can't thank you enough for unpacking that.
No worries.
Absolutely. I don't know how many times there have been when I've had to try and get first name and second name out of an email address, and now I know how to do it. You've just saved so many teachers so much time. But we've got a question for you, Chris.
What's the question?
What's the question, Yvette?
The question is, considering that data and data management is key to what you've just presented, how will students be using this skill or need this skill into the future?
Managing, like you said, managing data is a fundamental skill.
So where are our students going to be in 2030, 2035? What kind of jobs are they going to have?
Well, they're going to be
they all
older.
want to work at Google. A lot of them do. So give us the inside goss.
And I can calculate how much older they'll be.
I must admit, I've never thought about my birthday as a T-minus date. So that's really helpful at this stage of life. Thank you very much.
And you know, I don't think any spreadsheet could have predicted how excited we were going to get after listening to you, but we're pretty darn excited. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. All the links are going into the comments section.
Okay.
Now, you're running this live.
Yep.
So if people saw this, they want to come and see you live, hear from a Google engineer, they can still sign up. There are still some places left. They can come along on Thursday.
To the Google office.
Very exciting. Now, some of our events have hit capacity, but there's still a couple of places going on the Google event. I don't think there will be for much longer.
No.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah,
No worries.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Okie dokie.
All right.
So, here we go. Now, you know, it's absolutely unbelievable. If you were wanting to connect with these Google tools, you don't have to create your own Google account. Every single person in the Department of Education has their own Google account.
Just tell them how they get there.
How do you get there? Exactly right. You log into your portal, then you click on My Learning Tools, and G Suite is straight in front of you. And what do? You add it to your
Your essentials. Sorry, essentials. The E word, of course.
That's it. It'll add it in there, and you can absolutely access it on your home page every time. So that's for sure. Nice and easy. Now, don't forget, there are lots and lots of other events happening next week.
There are. And look, we've got the links up for the STEM.T4L library and their events that are happening. You need to check these out, guys, because the fun does not stop this week, and it does not stop today. This is the very beginning. We've got the links up live. We've got the events happening this week, and what we actually also really need to get to is how they can share the word, or how we're sharing the word out to social media.
You have so got that exactly right. Now, we are where you are. We are on Twitter, we are on Insta, and of course we are on YouTube because you're streaming it live right now.
That's right. You need to share the love, guys. You need to spread the word. You need to join our community, because that's how you're going to hear about what we're up to.
Absolutely.
We want you to subscribe so you can just get things delivered to your inbox. All the info is going to be there. But moreover, we want to get your thoughts. We want to hear from you. How is tech transforming your classroom? Or how do you need help? How can we help you? We're looking at our big calendar of events for next year. We're bringing professional development to you throughout the year and across the state.
The whole time. It's so exciting. There's so much going on. You know, you can connect with the experts. We've got classroom examples. We go out and explore what's going on with industry, like your conversation with Chris just then.
That's right.
We go out there, find out the why, as well as the how.
That's right.
And there's so many inspiring stories. You know, Yvette, I was just watching that latest edition of T4L TV.
It's such a good episode.
Oh my goodness
I love
me.
it.
After you've watched this, the binging continues.
Yes, that's it.
T4L
Your night
TV,
is sorted. Monday
episode
night.
6. All right. Okay, now, of course, it's
back to
4:30.
programming.
Exactly right. Back to programming. You got it. Now, Yvette, I have an iPad. But, you know, I have to confess I'm a bit of a Netflix binger.
Okay.
Is that all I can get out of my iPad?
Oh, no, there is so much more. I'm so glad you asked. And I'm so glad we've got this next section coming up with Libby Jones, who is a fantastic person to talk about iPad and the potential, but particularly with coding and what's possible on your iPad. So if you're a school that's got iPads, if you're a teacher that uses iPads, or even not, you'll actually really get a lot out of this next session with Libby.
We're going to Swift Playground. So if you've never played with it before, never opened the app, you're going to, you know, totally get your mind blown.
That's right.
It is going to be unbelievable. Libby is an ADE. We are like, you know, that sounds like an MBE
but what is an ADE?
or something like that.
Do you get them from the Queen?
I think it's better than the Queen. It's an Apple Distinguished Educator.
Oh, brilliant.
And she's also one of our T4L, our Technology for Learning Connected Communities leaders. Oh my gosh, we are so lucky to have her here today.
We're very lucky.
Okie dokie. So we can't wait. Keep your questions coming, people. Put them in the comments section. Keep the conversation going.
Yes. We're about to learn lots about.
We're going to welcome
Swift
Libby
Playgrounds
Jones on. Libby, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I've always wanted to be a news presenter, and I feel like this is my one.
Here we go.
Chance.
Here's
Let's
the
do
T4L news desk. That is for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I think it's over to you.
Take it
Awesome.
away.
Magic.
Blow our
Thank
minds
you.
for the third time today.
So hi everyone, thank you. Thanks for that lovely introduction, and I will get started. I'm going to run a little, you'll get to see me on a memoji, so you know what I look like now, you'll get to see me in cartoon form. To give you a little bit of a background about my coding experience, I'm not an expert, not by any stretch of the imagination. So I'll just get started with my keynote and I'll take you through. So there's me, you know what I look like, hopefully that looks like me. So a couple of years ago, I thought, oh, I keep hearing about coding, you know, wondering why it's so important. And I just really thought, you know, I'm not confident in it, but it's my duty as a teacher to upskill myself so I can help my students to learn what they might need for the future. So once I decided I wanted to delve into this whole coding thing, you know, sitting at home, I was thinking, how am I going to get started? And I got started with Swift Playgrounds. It is a free Apple app that teaches you the Swift language through this really awesome and addictive game. I then found the Everyone Can Code resources. They will hold your hand through the whole process, and that gave me the confidence to start teaching it. So in my classroom, what it looked like was an explicit teaching lesson, and I would have my Everyone Can Code up on my interactive whiteboard and choose one concept that I wanted to share with my class. Then I'd get my iPad out and I'd sit down with the kids and I would learn with them. And it was one of my favourite afternoon activities to do, was to sit and work through the levels with them. And one of the things I really, really enjoyed about this time in my classroom was changing the perceptions of coding. And I particularly saw it in the girls as we started to break the stereotypes of, you know, what coding looked like and who gets to code and what types of jobs need coding. And they really started to see that it is quite a creative process, and that it requires problem solving and perseverance to make sure you get through all of the levels in the most efficient way. So I am super excited about the Hour of Code happening in a few weeks' time, and I can't wait to share with you the great resources that Apple have put together to help you get started on your coding journey. And for me, one of the most exciting things is that you and your students can continue to use these resources well after the Hour of Code has passed. I think there's 40 hours of content just in the first book, so that will certainly keep you busy. So if you are sitting at home or school feeling nervous or overwhelmed about jumping into the Hour of Code, I'm here to assure you that if I can do it, you certainly can too. So today I'm going to show you all the resources that you'll need and give you a little run through of the lesson that you can do with your students for the Hour of Code in week 9. So what will you need? All of these links, I think, will be coming up live as well and will be available at the end. So you will need the Hour of Code with Swift Playgrounds Facilitator Guide. You will need the Hour of Code Keynote presentation. You will need some iPads and Swift Playgrounds downloaded onto these. You'll also need a square of paper for each student for a little unplugged activity that we will use to get started, and robots. So if you have Spheros, Lego Mindstorm EV3s, Dash or MicroBit, they're just some of the robots that can connect to Swift Playgrounds. So if you've got those, get them charged and get them out, and I'll show you how to connect them a little bit later. So this is a 1 hour session that you'll do with your class. I'm going to do it in 10-15 minutes really quickly, and it's broken into 6 bite-sized components, which makes it really easy for you to get your head around. It is designed for students from year 4 through to early secondary. However, I have used Swift Playgrounds with kindy students with the help of older buddies as well. So this is the whole lesson plan and resources all ready for you to go. So how good is that? Let's get started. So to start your lesson, you'll welcome your kids to the Hour of Code and explain that it's a global movement in 180 plus countries with over 1,300 registered events in Australia already. And the idea is just to get everybody excited about coding, which I think is going to happen from today. So you might be asking yourselves, or the kids might be asking you, why is coding important and why do we need to learn about this? But instead, try and get your students to think about how much of our day-to-day lives depend on coding and how much it helps us. So I always like to use the really basic example of an elevator. So when you're going to get in an elevator and you're stuck in the door as they're closing and they don't squish you. This is coding. This sensor is coded to say, hey, if we're in the way, don't shut. I also like to talk to my kids about, get them to think about how coding helps people and how apps have helped people. So they usually come up with ideas about maps. You know, that's helps us drive around the city heaps easier than with a street directory. Social media helps to keep friends and family connected no matter where you live. And there's apps to help you learn languages, learn your timetables, lose weight, remind you of things. And this has really helped my students to think about the why of coding and why we need to learn this. So I always like to say, you know, coding in its simplest terms is telling a computer what you want it to do, which involves step-by-step commands. And when I'm teaching this to kindy, I always say that computers and robots, you know, they don't have brains, but they are very obedient if you tell them what to do in the correct order, unlike children. So while all this is happening without us physically seeing the code, how cool would it be if we could learn to code and create things that could help improve the lives of others around the world? So today we're going to get started on the language of Swift, and if you get really good at programming with Swift, you will be able to build your own apps and share them with the world. So we're going to start with some of the language around coding, and I know we've already heard some of it today, but ask your students, have they ever given someone directions on how to do something, like playing a game at lunch or helping a friend to solve a maths problem? If they say yes, you can tell them that they've already started coding, and this is called issuing a command, and you've already used an algorithm. So our first unplugged activity today, when you're doing your hour of code, will be to give everyone a blank piece of square paper and see if they can follow the instructions on the screen to make a fortune teller. So once everyone's done that, ask them if everyone's made one successfully. Were the commands clear? Congratulate them on successfully following some commands. Our next concept is called a function, and I always like to teach this by brushing your teeth. So when you first learnt to do this as a little kid, you thought about the steps. You had to do them in the correct order, wet the toothbrush, put the toothpaste on, although some people do that the other way around, so that's controversial. Brush teeth, rinse your mouth, and then rinse the brush. So once you've learnt all of these steps, and you could do it all in order by yourself, you know this as brushing your teeth. So when you're told to go and brush your teeth, you follow the series of commands in the right order, and you've performed the function of brushing your teeth. So now let's go back to the commands we followed to create a fortune teller. And let's have a look what this might look like if we were to write this in Swift language. So let's have a look at this funny writing at the top. Func, obviously we know a function is coming up. We just learnt what that was. And make fortune teller, all one word with capital letters in the middle. And now I know your students are going to say to you, but there's random capital letters. I get in trouble for that. Well, your answer to this, and you get to sound super smart if you say this, is it's called camel case. And in commands, we can't use spaces. So to capitalize the start of a new word helps us to read the words used in the coding more easily. You can remember by the capital letters in the middle being like a hump in the middle of a camel. The brackets at the end tell us that the command is finished, and then we can see a big open and closed curly brackets. Ask your students what they think needs to go in between these brackets, and yes, you guessed it, we need some commands to make up this function. So we need the steps that will help us to make a fortune teller. And if we were coding, we could call this function, this set of steps, rather than rewrite all of the steps every time we wanted to make a fortune teller. So once we've done that little unplugged activity, we get to go to the fun part. So now it's when we get our iPads out and put our newfound knowledge to the test. So open up Swift Playgrounds and choose the Learn to Code 1 playground. This is where you need to start, and make sure you already have it downloaded onto the kids' iPads before they start. Run through the little introduction together. Again, it'll explain some of the specific coding concepts that they're going to be learning about, along with some real life of examples. And it starts with following a recipe and building a toy. We then get to have a look at what it's actually going to look like. I'm just going to run you through the screen and some of the features on there. So our little character Bite, he will be able to move around. You can click on him and it can actually change the character. There's a couple of different options for you there. If you click on where it says adding a new command, you would get to see the long list of topics that are just covered in Everyone Can Code Playground 1. And so there are heaps of options. Your top kids will be extended. They will be busting to search through and make it through all of those levels. There's a little timer in the middle of the screen down the bottom. That allows you to choose the speed at which you'll run your code. So you can make it go faster or you can make it go slower. There is also a hint button on the bottom right hand side, and it will never tell you the answer, but it will help you to get a little bit of guidance into what you might be doing wrong. And trust me, in a couple of levels past the start, I was all over the hint button, so you'll be needing it pretty soon. If you want to then put in your code, you would click, you'll move forward a certain number of times, turn left and collect the gem. And the thing that I really, really like about Swift Playgrounds is that it teaches the concept of debugging really early on. So once you get to more complex puzzles, there's certainly different ways that you can solve the puzzle, but there is always going to be a most efficient way. And if the students don't put the right code in the most efficient way, it'll ask them to go back and check it before they move on. So I'd give my students 15 or 20 minutes of our hour of code and get them to just work through the levels at their own pace, and you'll really start to see the collaboration and the communication skills coming to life. And you can see how doing these simple unplugged activities that we did before, based around the fortune teller and the brushing of the teeth, it will really help the kids feel a lot more comfortable going into this activity rather than being extremely overwhelmed. So once they've had a play with that, you can now choose to apply it. So if you have any of the robots that connect to Swift Playgrounds, so like I said before, common ones would be the MicroBits, Dash, Spheros and EV3s. This is where you'll get the chance to connect them and see them come to life. If you do have these, you will need to download the playgrounds for your specific tech before you try and connect them. If you don't have any of these, it is totally fine. It is not so much about the robots themselves. Yes, it's really awesome to see the kids get their code come to life and it's something tangible for them. But the thing I absolutely love about Swift Playgrounds is that each time you write the code and run it, you get to see Bite perform what you've written and collect the gems. So even if you don't physically code any of the robots that I've mentioned, I promise you your students will be engaged and motivated to get Bite to his gems. They also get super creative, and I guarantee you that the first thing they'll do is they'll want Bite to fall off the edge just to see what happens. So once you've had your turn at applying, it's time to connect, reflect on the genius coders that we've become in the last hour. We've learned about algorithms, commands, functions, and camel case. I then like to ask the kids, what they enjoyed and what was challenging, and really start talking about the idea of code, not just being about apps and computers, but all the items in their lives that follow a set of instructions to make something automated. I like to give them the task to start thinking about coding at home. Photograph 10 objects that might use code and start to think about what commands and functions they'll use. Now it's time to congratulate your students for beginning their coding journey. Let them know that they've begun their journey to potentially helping millions of people. So there you have, you've mastered your first lesson of Swift Playgrounds and Hour of Code, and now you're ready to continue exploring all the other resources that I'm about to tell you about. So I've come up with my top 3 tips for helping you to get involved in coding in the classroom. So number 1 is give your students some context. Talk about coding often. Give them time to think about how apps have changed people's lives. Let them explore apps they enjoy using and think about what happened before they existed. One of the schools I go to, the teacher even codes their students around the playground to stop, go, walk slowly. Just get them talking about coding and get them excited. One of my absolute favourite ways to help kids understand the why of coding is to run an app design competition at your school. Get them to design an app that helps solve a local problem. You'll be amazed at the skills they develop during this process. Don't worry, you don't need to think about any of this because Apple have done it for you with the Swift Coding Club resources. It will show you how to set up a code club, give you heaps of ideas, and show you how to run an app design competition at your school. My second tip, accept the fact that you don't need to be an expert, but you do need to give it a go, and you owe it to your kids. We're forever talking to them about growth mindset and making mistakes in learning. So do it yourself. Put yourself out there and show them that you're learning with them. And trust me, in no time at all, the kids will pick it up and they'll be teaching you. My third tip, grab the teacher next door, grab your teacher bestie and get them to team teach it with you. Whether they're an expert or not, it is a really great activity to team teach, plus the more the merrier when it comes to coding. So where to next? If you're just starting out on your Apple journey, here are a couple of resources that I think you must explore over your next holidays. So the Everyone Can Code Puzzles Guide. We have the teacher guide in white and we now have a student guide in orange. This is where you'll find 40 hours of content and this is just the beginning. The next step, I would definitely say get on board, is the Apple Teacher Learning Center. You can work through your content to earn different badges and become an Apple teacher. At my school, we bought snacks and completed them as a staff after school, and it was so much fun just to get everyone involved and everyone talking about the connections that we could make to the curriculum. And finally, if you're around Sydney, come down and say hi to me and the Apple team at the Apple Store on this Wednesday at 3:30 till 5. I think there's still spots available, but hopefully not after this. We would love to see you down there and continue to learn about app design, get some free professional learning, and that's me. I hope you've enjoyed that. It was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, amazing,
We're not
Libby.
worthy.
You
so
were
much.
fantastic.
There's
Yes.
so much
Guys,
information
oh, I
there.
hope everyone gets started.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I love those great new books. You know, just taking a look at the content that's going to be inside those teacher guide. They include videos and
Yep.
step-by-step things inside there
Yep,
as
hold
well.
your hand as you're learning. It's your new best friend.
It is. So Hour of Code organised, digital technologies covered.
Yep.
That is fantastic. I learned so much, Libby. Didn't you, Yvette?
I know. And on
Oh.
Wednesday, if you want to see Libby live in person at the Apple Store at Bondi Junction for our Sydney viewers, I know that you're going to
Yep.
be sharing a bit more about your journey as well from the classroom, becoming an
Yes.
Apple Distinguished Educator, and just really talking about app design and prototyping
Yep.
too,
I'd
because
love
that's
to-
your passion.
Love to share it with you. So come on down.
Yeah, that should be fantastic. Thank you again, Libby. It's been wonderful. Gosh, my mind is just
And little
expanded.
Byte, so cute. And all that text-based programming in Swift. Oh my gosh, you're teaching your students future skills, aren't
It's
you?
all there for you.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
thank
great.
you so
Thank
much,
you again, and
Libby.
we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is fantastic.
Oh, Joe.
Okie dokie. There
This
we
has
go.
been a big afternoon of learning.
It
a
has
big
been
afternoon
amazing.
of coding.
If you guys out there aren't feeling like you need to go and get another scone, then there's something wrong with you.
Scones,
that is for
drinks,
sure.
yeah.
So don't forget, what can you do? You can go back and re-watch it all over again. Isn't that
That's
right?
right, you can.
Yep.
And if there are lots of links that we've touched on,
Uh-huh.
all the presenters have given you heaps
They're
of
going
info.
in the comments.
Yeah, so just go back,
Yeah.
rewatch, or look in the comments section. We'll have everything listed there if you want to follow up on something in particular.
Put it through to your principal and say, hey, I've just sorted an hour and a half of learning for you on day 1, term 1,
That's right.
or in those last few days of staff development, because you need a reward, and the reward is you're coming to one of our live sessions.
Oh my God.
Tickets still available for Wednesday and Thursday. Where are we
know.
going on Wednesday?
We are going to the Apple Store at Bondi Junction.
That's right. How exciting. Again, big screens.
That's right.
Learning all about app
That's
prototyping.
right. Yes, we are.
Oh my gosh, can't
Thursday,
wait.
we're headed to Google headquarters.
Oh my god, it's worth it just to go to Google headquarters.
It is.
Wow. Google Sheets again, and then the Google Engineer. Oh my
That's
goodness.
right, that's right.
Don't forget, if you go, what do they need to do? They need to share it on.
Our social media platforms.
That's it.
Because we have them now. We're there. We're with you.
Learning is connecting.
Oh my god, and we've got a visitor who's just
Who is
coming
it?
through.
Hark, I hear a visitor.
Oh my goodness me, it's a surprise. We weren't expecting this, viewers.
No, not at all.
Here we go. Oh my god, it is one of our telepresence robots.
Oh my
Only
gosh.
happens on a T4L live broadcast. And there's
Oh,
Phil.
watch him go. G'day,
Phil's
Phil.
been behind the scenes today. So absolutely, thanks Phil. Thanks to everyone from behind the scenes. So
Yes.
we've had the amazing team from the Distance and Rural Technologies team.
They are. Thank
So
you to
Jacob,
the crew from Dubbo.
who's at the back,
Shout out.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And our
Our
amazing
team,
team.
yeah,
Heather,
brilliant.
Krista, Christina, Greg, they've all been on the chat. Jacob and Arn on the cameras.
I know, they make
making
us
sure
look
we
this
look
good.
This took so much to prepare.
We do, I know. You
Yes,
don't
indeed.
understand what it
They
takes.
showed us where we needed to put our foundation on and all
I
those.
know,
I don't
we
know what
did.
that is.
We're still
but I
looking
think I'm
good. We're
talking
looking
about the
great.
right thing. I
I know, but that's okay. I
Deary
also
me.
think we should give a shout out.
They're telling us to wrap it up. You realise
Let's
we're
just-
rambling.
We want to give people a shout out. We
Yes.
want to give Vikram a shout out.
Oh.
We want to give Russell
They
and we
were
want to give
amazing.
Mrs. Grover a shout out for
Pam,
keeping the comments
thanks, Pam.
alive.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Pam. Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you for your contributions. We've had an amazing time. Learned so
Brilliant.
much. Tune in again.
Let's
and
get coding, everyone.
Now, watch T4L TV episode 6.
Okay. Take care.